to tonight's Bennington Select Board meeting. It's July 22nd. We are on the third floor of the fire facility in Bennington, and we want to welcome you to this nice, cool space. My name is Jeannie Jenkins. I have the pleasure of chairing this board, and I'll ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
I'm Ed Woods.
Hi, I'm Tom Haley.
Clark Adams.
Jean Connor.
Thank you very much. Also with us tonight, we have Assistant Town Manager Dan Monks. We have Bridget Gallant taking excellent minutes, I'm sure, and Josh Boucher on the camera for Cat TV, which we thank him very much for doing that. Let's start tonight, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you lead us, Ed? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Ed. And Tom, would you provide the vision statement that guides our work?
I will. Bennington is a welcoming, engaged, inclusive, resilient community where everyone, regardless of identity, shares in our vitality and benefits from an outstanding quality of life.
Thank you very much. All right, for the purposes of discussion, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We have the minutes of July 8th and July 15th. And warrants. And we don't have any liquor licenses, right?
No liquor license.
Okay. All right. Any discussion?
I have a couple of questions on
Okay,
warrants.
sure. Go ahead.
All right. The easy part is, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm looking here at item 401323 on the first page. It says agency funding. I noticed in our last warrants there was also a pretty substantial check written to the same organization. What's the nature of that disbursement?
With this particular one, this is the annual agency funding. You'll see other agencies, such as the Bennington Coalition for the Homeless, the Bennington Free Clinic. These are all approved annual agency funding amounts that either the voters approved or the select board approved.
Oh, okay. Well, again, I didn't bring the previous warrant.
Probably the previous one, the Bennington County Regional Commission is a contractor for a municipal planning grant, so they were the successful bidder with a competitive bidding process last year and actually this year to continue the town plan update. So you may be seeing that. I don't have the old one in front of me, but it's likely that's what it was.
I forgot to bring that. All right, thank you. And I also have a question, more of a thank you. I thought Mr. Hurd would be here, but I guess as his proxy you can do. So item 401340. That issue was brought to me by a constituent, and I just take note of the fact that one of my first real accomplishments was to get that done. So,
Can you tell us where that is?
oh, it's on the second page, third page, third item down.
Great, thank you.
So,
Excellent. And where are those located?
They are not located yet, but they will be on the rail trail.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Right,
and we can thank Mark Sawyer for handling that.
Yes,
Right.
I know it's been a long time in the works.
and my final item, again, is on the, I guess that'd be the page 6, item number 401373, the Otis Elevator Company expenditures. What are we fixing, or where are we fixing elevators?
So I know of at least 2 elevators that the town, or 3 actually. There's one at the PD, there's one here, and there's one at the senior center. So it could be any one of those. I see one of those service contract PD, so that's clearly the police department. But there may be other areas as well. So we do have 4.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Yes,
Questions on the warrants?
warrants or minutes? Yes.
Page 2, 41330, Berkshire Family Y, I'm seeing $12,000. That's what we pay them a month for the rec center?
That's the management services contract, yes.
And on the last page, 401 Vermont Voltage, MOU rental space, $3,000. Is that what the taxpayers are paying to rent Catamount?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're paying $144,000 for the rec center. We're paying $36,000 to rent Catamount.
That's correct.
Okay, was there ever a public discussion when that lease was signed 2 years ago in September?
I don't know when that occurred, but it was approved. But I'd have to look back and see.
Well-
I don't recall the specifics of that particular
Okay,
lease.
well, if my math is right, we're paying the Y $180,000 a year, not $144,000.
Well, the Y is not the recipient of that check. It goes to the Vermont Voltage, the owner of that building.
But that's for
Catamount building.
but the Y is using Catamount, correct?
That's correct, but I just want to be clarified, that's not a check to the YMCA.
But that's so that they can use the building.
That's
It's so
correct.
that we can extend services beyond the rec center
Yeah.
building,
There
which is
are
not
numerous amounts of senior programming and youth programming in that building. Yeah.
But one of the questions I've asked for a while is, I don't know why they're doing after-school programs at Catamount. I think all of the other towns, they're doing the after-school programs at the school.
That's a question, that's YMCA. I don't-
Oh, okay.
The SVSU also has their summer meal program there.
Yes.
401-332 for mowing. It says June mowing. Do we do mowing in May?
I assume we do because we have lots of athletic fields that are used in May and earlier.
I'm talking roadside mowing. I heard from a lot of citizens who had hoped that mowing could get done earlier in May. It might just be something to talk about at budget
Yeah.
time.
Yes, unfortunately, due to staffing issues, it's often comes later than we'd like it to be in the spring, but we are on top of it now.
On page 3, 401-342 Doxy Roofing, $4,500 for a roof at Willow Park.
I do not know. I'd have to find out for you, Nancy.
But that's something for recreation. Would you think?
I'd have to check and see where, I don't know exactly what that was
Okay,
for.
I'll follow up next meeting.
Yeah. So what you can do, Nancy, if you see these ahead of the meeting, you can call Stuart ahead of the meeting, and he can have those answers ready for you for the
Okay.
meeting.
Well, I'm just questioning.
No,
what
I know,
they-
I'm just saying that way we can, because if you'd have called me this afternoon, I could have researched it.
Well,
and
but I
had an
want the
answer.
public to be aware, too.
Well, we could answer it here as
So
well.
the general process is, if you call ahead of time, and Stu or Dan can give us the response, and then we say, and we're going to ask this at the meeting so everyone knows. So
Okay.
you
Yeah.
still ask the question.
Right, you still ask the question, it's just,
All right.
we'll have time to research it.
Okay.
And Stu probably would know off the top of his head, but unfortunately, he's not here.
Also on page 3, 401-345 Bennington Solar, $18,000, $449.
Let's see, you're at 401-345.
Oh, sorry, I can't read.
346, I think, right, Nancy?
Okay, yeah, because that's Endine. You're talking about ER Bennington Solar?
Yeah.
That's probably the payment for the for the electricity generated by the solar field on Route 7 South.
We're paying them?
Well, what happens is, we pay them 90% of the, we get a credit, let's say we get a credit for a certain amount, and then we have to pay them 90% of that credit, so that we get a 10% discount on our electricity.
So this is 10% less than we would pay if we didn't have a solar field.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Does that make sense?
So they generate credits, they show up on our bill.
Yeah.
So let's say that we have a $1,000 bill and they generate $1,000 of credits. Then we would pay them, and therefore our bill would be zero, but we would pay them $900, so we would get a 10% discount on that bill.
Well, this is $18,000. Is this a one-time payment a year?
No, we pay every month typically. Yep. They generate a significant amount of electricity.
Okay. Down below, 401-350 Green Mountain Lines, $900. Is that to take seniors on a trip?
Very likely, again,
Okay.
if you'd had called earlier, I'd been able to give you a definitive answer.
On the next page, can't read the page number, 401-353, there's 2 charges at the rec center for propane, one for $924, one for $240. What are we using propane for at the rec center?
They heat the pool. It's the biggest
Oh,
user
okay.
of propane in the town, by a long shot.
The next page, page 5, New England newspapers, 500, and then 1,250. Are those for the articles we put in the banner for select board meetings?
No. Those
No.
are free.
Okay, well, no, I just wanted to make sure, because we used to just put little notices.
The notices.
Well, the notices
cost.
we have to pay. Any legal notice we have to pay for.
Yeah, the releases we generate and we put in for.
I'm
Okay, so
guessing
the
this is
large
for the
articles we-
marketing. Shannon's given me the.
Okay, no, that's
for our
fine.
marketing, yeah.
Be careful not to call it an article.
Yeah,
And I
right. It's a
think-
release. It's a release. We wish it
That's
were
it.
an article.
Great.
Okay.
And just a comment on the minutes from July 15th, where we met with Mr. Carroll. I just want it noted that he did comment that our town charter gives the select board the authority to inquire into the conduct of any officer, commission, or department and investigate any and all municipal affairs. So,
That's actually not accurate. What he said was that that you would have to look at every situation, and that if there was dereliction of duty, we did have that. But we also had another part of the conversation, which was if an allegation is raised and it is investigated and it is found to be not true, what are the next steps? And he says, that's the end of it.
So if I may, this is also noted as film for a later broadcast, if anybody's wondering.
Yes, you can go, it's on Cat TV?
Yes.
Yes.
and there was a question that I asked, a specific question, and he said it was one that we should hear from the town lawyer on. Did anybody check with the lawyer on that?
So what he said was that if you have specific questions, you should work with the town manager, and that if appropriate, then it would go to our town council. So that's true of any question we have. He was not referring to a specific question. Just to be, I guess, generous, our town manager took these minutes, which is, okay, so they may not be as detailed as what Nancy or Bridget would do.
Well, I can't find it right now, but it was a specific question about using federal money. Were we required to?
But Nancy, all we're doing is approving the minutes right now.
Okay,
So
well,
that would be a follow-up, and I've noted that, so
Okay.
we'll
All right.
follow up on that, okay?
If I could just comment on one thing. It's important to note that the ability to investigate employee conduct was related to a change in the department or the function of that particular employee. That's where this board would get involved, and that was made very clear to us during that training. I don't want to lead the public astray with false information.
All right, any other questions on specific warrants or the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Any abstentions? All right, the ayes have it. Okay, all right, so now moving on, we are very fortunate to have Chief Doucette here tonight. Wait, public comment. Public comment, thank you, keep me on track. All right, public comment. All right, so public comment time. Is there anyone who did not sign up who would like to speak? No? All right, so this is a time for people to bring up items that are not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Please state your name and town of residence, and I think that's it. Is it? Oh, and Jean is a timekeeper, and she will give you a handy-dandy little sign when you have 30 seconds left, okay? All right, so first up, Mike Bethel, and let us help you with the microphone.
Thank you, Jim.
And, thank you, Jim. And Mike is doing us all a service tonight. It is.
Well, a couple of things. But the first thing is I just want to take, and I hope we all take a moment of silence for the little girl that passed at the parent and her family. It's very sad to read about it. I don't know in person, but everybody has to be back for what happened. So if we take a moment of silence, I appreciate it.
Okay, I guess that's what we can do.
Thank you, Mike.
The reason I'm here for is the last meeting I asked about the in and out of the skateboard park. I request, and I hope you will do it, Paul, when the chief sits here, maybe he could talk about it. My concern is, if it is successful to bring people to Bennington to have competition, meets, just using it for the kids and maybe the people from Manchester would come down or whatever. Not so much the parking, but it is right across the street from the fire department. And there's a bottleneck sometimes on regular traffic after 4 corners, the 4 stop signs across from Dutchman's and everything. I think it would be very prudent where we're spending tax dollars of over $1 million in whatever the final cost is, to at least spend a few thousand to have an outside independent study done on how that will look, how we can improve it before we get bottlenecked into it. And maybe ask the chief and some of the firemen what they feel about it. Do it in an open meeting and just say, we'd like the park there, we've got the money for the park, but is it going to, because safety, time, and everything with fire, rescue, like police will probably tell you that it's imperative to get to somebody sometime really quick. No fault of their own, we've got these big trucks now, we're one big one. I just think it's time to be prudent and look at it and see if we can improve the situation before we build it. So I'm asking the second time, maybe put on the agenda, talk about it amongst themselves. What would it cost for an independent study?
So, Mike, actually, we did refer it to Dan, so it's really, you would not want the select board making traffic planning decisions, but we did refer it to Dan, and he is working,
I actually did speak with our engineers, and they said they had absolutely no concerns whatsoever with that traffic issue.
Okay.
But that isn't an independent traffic study.
There are consultants, they do traffic studies. They said it didn't even rise to the threshold of something that needed to be seriously reviewed.
Question about fire.
I did, Michael.
So you're going on the record, and the board is going along with that about an independent study, that there's going to be no problem.
I'm going on the record, I spoke with our engineer, and they did not think it would be a problem.
So my question here, my specific question is that I saw that hook and ladder deal for the first time at the vet's home last week. They've actually come down, measured that vehicle, and are certain that with parking associated with a large event there, that device can safely maneuver in and out of that area under an emergent circumstance?
So the question is not whether or not they can get in and out of that parking lot easily. They can definitely get in. They might not be able to get out easily if there's a lot of parking. But the question is whether or not it's safe for them to get in and out of this building and traverse this street.
Okay. I was thinking that large ladder truck trying to maneuver the River Street and Depot Street with vehicles, because heck, I have a hard time parking going to Dutchman sometimes. Whether or not we have had someone who's taken a look at the size of that vehicle and the maneuver room required with those streets occupied by a good number of vehicles attending an event here. That would be my question or concern.
Like I said, our engineer did not have concerns, but I'm happy to raise it again.
No, but I specifically, that's what I'd like looked at, is if we put a bunch of vehicles on that street, can we get that large ladder truck in and out or other equipment safely through that intersection?
So Dan, maybe the most prudent thing to do would be to just get a memo.
Yeah, but the easiest thing to do, that's a very easy thing to solve. We just put no parking signs up.
Right.
So you don't need a study to do that.
So I'm not talking about parking on the street.
See, I knew that's what you weren't talking about, Mike.
There's a meet, they're getting in or out, and there's a fire. Did you ask the fire department what they feel about it?
So I broke our cardinal rule, which is that we don't get into discussion and public comment. So what I'm going to do, Dan, why don't you, if you can write us a memo and give us more details about both inside the parking lot and also what the strategy would be on the street, then that would be great, and maybe it can be in the manager's report for the next meeting, because this is not the committee to be discussing traffic. But I think you raise very good points, and I think we'll get something in writing for you, okay? Thank you.
I have one question I'd like Dan to put in the memo.
Okay.
Do you have just an idea of how many vehicles you're expecting?
No.
You don't
There's no
have
way to
any
say.
idea at all?
We know how many parking spaces are in that parking lot, but I can't tell you how many cars a specific event would attract. There's just no way to do that.
It's going to be much fewer than we see at Garlic Fest.
Yeah, exactly. We get through that.
And we control where people can park at Garlic Fest as well. So I think, should we have the great fortune of having 4,000 people come to a skate park event, we'll deal.
Yeah. And emergency responders, they have sirens, they have ways to deal with these things. So.
Yeah.
I would think we'd have some type of an idea.
So,
there's just no way to tell for sure, Nancy, how many
Well, you
people.
can
all right, we're moving on. All right, why Kids Night Out? Shannon.
Shannon Barsati. I'm a resident of Pownell, so I'm just making an announcement about our special program of the YMCA. So the Berkshire Family YMCA is pleased to partner with the town of Bennington to provide a safe, fun, and supervised program for youth while their parents or caregivers attend the Bennington Select Board meetings. So the special Kids Monday Night Out offerings will be held at the Bennington Sports Center, which is the old Catamount School at 230 School Street. Youth will receive a pizza dinner. They'll have active games, crafts, and be engaged in programs with the YMCA youth staff. The special Monday night Kids Out at the Sports Center for the Select Board meetings is $3 per child, and all youth must be registered ahead of time. You can go online to bfymca.org/programs or call the Welcome Center at 802-500-2770. The Select Board meetings with Kids Monday Night Outs take place on the second and fourth Mondays of each month during this meeting, unless otherwise scheduled, and the youth program will begin on Monday, August 12th. Drop-off is at 5:45 p.m. and pickup by 8:15 p.m., serving youth ages 5 through 12.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is a really nice development. That's great that we didn't ask for it, they offered it, which is really super cool. Next up, Trail Fest. Steve Love, in a different role.
Yeah, really, this will be brief. I just wanted to remind everyone that this Saturday, the 27th, we're going to have our third annual Trail Fest, which is put on by the Bennington AT Community Group, and we'll start at noon and go till 2:30. There's free food, free non-alcoholic beverages. We'll have some hiking demonstrations, a trail talk with through hikers. Last year, we had about 40 through hikers and a whole lot more of our community members there. We have overnight camping the night before and Saturday night for through hikers, and also breakfast in the morning, again, for through hikers or hikers. But for the general community, the free food and music and all of the exhibits and demonstrations we have are there for everybody to enjoy. We hope everyone will come. The town does have a nice section on the Trail Fest and on the AT community in general on their website, so I encourage people to check that out as well. And you can get all the detail you need there, and we hope to see everybody this weekend. We do have this year, one other thing is we have a rain date. If, in fact, we had really bad weather, which we missed by a few minutes last year, we would have an alternate location at the Second Congregational Church on Hillside Street. We would make that decision Friday evening and at least let all our vendors know that's where they need to go to set up. As far as the community goes, there's probably no real good way to let them know, but if you show up at the rec center and it's not there, go to Hillside Street.
So the rec center is the location?
Yep, I'm sorry, rec center. Yep. So anyone have any questions on it?
Well, are you going to have that bear netting demonstration again this year?
The which?
Bear netting.
Oh, well, we have, there may be a bear can demonstrate, or will we demonstrate how to hang food, to keep it away from bears, leave no trace, how to make sure you're staying 100 feet away from the nearest water when you do stop. So there are some pretty good, we partner with the Green Mountain Club and the Green Mountain National Forest for some of the events. We presumably Greater Heights Tree Service is going to bring us a log that our GMC folks can demonstrate some saws they use to maintain the trail. So that should be a really good event. And
Very cool.
right now, the weather's looking great.
Super. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Steve.
Thank you.
All right, now we're ready for Chief Doucette. All right, so the chief is coming as the Emergency Management Director. Is that true? Chief? Yes? All right. To talk to us about about support for the emergency management plan.
Not my role here tonight, but I wouldn't mind participating in the Firehouse Skate Park discussion, as I have no concerns, nor does the fire chief. And we can explain that at a later time. So, as our chair said, I am here tonight not as the police chief, but I only have one type of uniform, so that's what you see. And I'm here as your emergency management director to discuss some things that are happening sooner rather than later for a couple different reasons. So, as you all know, there's been lots of discussion about our emergency management plan. People refer to it as the LEMP, which drives me crazy. It's the Local Emergency Management Plan. It is pretty thick. This is it right here in this folder. There's some wishes to add annexes to our emergency management plan. And so there's a group of us that have gotten together and had some conversations. We'll get into that. I want to share with you one of the things that we most recently learned at our meeting was that Dara Zink's funding is being cut. Dara works for the Bennington County Regional Commission, and she is a regional planner and emergency management program person in Bennington County, and we just learned that funding for her position is being cut, and
Just for the emergency management part
just
of it.
for the emergency management part of things. And so we're concerned about that. So we have a lot of work to do. It's going to continue. Our work is continuous anyway, but we'd like to get some things done while Dara is still around and able to provide us guidance. There's also meetings that occur at the county level, and that meeting is actually going to be in August, because, you know, sometimes when things affect Bennington, they affect the entire county, and we have to work together to resolve issues. So with that being said, I did promise Jeannie Jenkins that I would be brief on this evening. So really our plan is to notify the community that we are working towards adding some annexes to our local emergency management plan for the town of Bennington. This summer is a great example. We've had some, I know some of you like it, I do not, this warm weather this year. We've had several days that it has gone above 91 degrees, which is concerning because we want to make sure that our people that are elderly or handicapped are able to seek assistance and get the assistance that they need in the event of a long stretch, long duration of warm weather. Most recently, we did put some small programs in place. Here at the Firehouse, Splash Pad, the Bennington Elks Lodge 567 on Washington Avenue, as well as BPI on Harwood Hill, did come together and make it so that people had a safe place to go if they so chose to do that. I believe that the plan would be for our committee to continue working and find other alternatives for places for people to go in the event of a long stretch of hot weather that's dangerous, or we have a storm that comes through Bennington, because we all know that that does happen, and we would have locations for people to go in the event that they needed a place. And we have to work on this in the event, and during one of our recent meetings, our most recent meeting, we learned that you know, having some of these places for people to go is great, but we also need things for people to do, right? Dominoes, that's the age of some of the people. Not you, Martha. You're not old. I learned that a long time ago, and I haven't forgotten it. I have to share with you that it is true. I mean, some of the places, these cooling locations, as we call them, are able to take people in, but, we don't have a big screen TV for them to watch. I mean, there needs to be something. You don't want to just go there and sit there and not have anything to do, right? So we really need to work with community partners and find either faith-based organizations or private places that are willing to come forward and help us with our project. It can't just be the town of Bennington. We can't rely on the state to give us funding. The state has lots of programs where they give out funding now for other things. And so what we're trying to do is plan. We want to be somewhat aggressive with this to see if we can come up with some locations in and around Bennington where people can go if they need help. Different annexes for different projects. Some people may not be able to assist us if it's a cold event, and some people may not be able to assist us if it's a heat event. So really, we wanted people to know what we're working on as we develop these annexes. We don't want to hide anything. We would value input. I'm responsible for creating the agenda for the next meeting, and the meetings right now are held at the police facility in our little conference room. But if we get to the point where we get lots of people involved, we can have them right here. If we do get lots of people involved, we'll break up into subcommittees because we don't get a lot accomplished when there's a lot of people in the room. We would set something up where we could take your feedback, take your information or your ideas, and drive forward with that. So again, we're here tonight. I'm here tonight to let you know that there are some people in our community that are very interested in helping out and making things happen. I think our biggest hurdle is going to be locations and where we can make that happen. So we felt that coming to the select board meeting and sharing with the people in the audience, the people at home, and other select board members what our project is and what we're trying to accomplish, and that's making locations for people to go in the event we have a crisis of heat, cold weather, or other situations. We've met with the Red Cross. A lot of people rely on the Red Cross. We will call the Red Cross. The Red Cross is great, but they're not going to come and help us set up a cooling location or a heat location. They're all about disaster recovery and things like that. So, it's going to be a project. It's definitely not going to happen overnight. We have locations listed in our plan that can help us out. But, when school's in session, as an example, we can't rely on the school to open up a cooling location when students are in school. We all know we do have heat in September. There's no doubt. We have heat in October sometimes. And winter storms, sure, school might be closed for a day or two, but we still have to have other locations other than our schools. I mean, we all know that Mount Anthony Union Middle School is really a huge asset for us, and hopefully the project at the high school adds some air conditioning in the auditorium and the gymnasium. But again, we still have to have things for people to do, and we have to have locations that we can go to that are accessible to us at different times. And during the school year, that might be a problem unless the entire community is shut down. So that's really it in a nutshell, and I'm happy to take questions. Great.
I think, I think you're being very kind. I think the committee is hoping that there are organizations or facilities in town that we can count on as a cooling location, for instance, from, in the months of July and August, and so that's known ahead of time. One of the things that we learned from this last heat event was that we can get people to say yes, but then getting the word out that the location this week is going to be here and next week it's going to be there, or next season it's going to be in a different place, is really hard. That it's much, if we want this to be successful, it would be great to have partners that could say, for the month of July, if there's a heat event, count us in. So, so that can be printed in some way, so that we can get the word out, so that people aren't scrambling to figure out where they can go. And we appreciate your leadership on this. I think it is going to take a while, but I think the most critical step right now is finding organizations that can step up and say, we will help you, in case of a flood, in case of heat event, in case of a cold event, or any other, short-term crisis that we need to face.
I think it's important, one, that we recognize the Elks Lodge, and two, that we recognize BPI for stepping up at this last. There's a lot of people that don't understand that the Elks Lodge is a service organization. BPI has clients all day long, and they can't do it all the time. And Jack asked a great question: how come they're not listed? And at this point, it's a huge ask, because they have to bring in staffing. If you did get a whole barrage of people to go there, someone's going to have to pay to clean up and get rid of trash and things like that. So it's definitely a huge ask, but if you don't ask, you don't get. I know that every January when I come before you. And so I think that I think that we're taking some small steps. It'll be interesting to see what other communities do in Bennington County as well, because and I shared this with you because I did say it at the meeting. Bennington bears the brunt of a lot for Bennington County, and I think that we need to be careful. That we're taking care of our Bennington, North Bennington, and Old Bennington residents before we start inviting others. And we will be a leader in all of this, not under just my tutelage, but this community group will come together, and we'll do a fantastic job with this, but we need other people to step up and help us out. We know we can go to the library, you can cruise around in a big box store that has air conditioning, but like we talked about at the last meeting, it's transportation, and it's getting people to certain locations. We talked about this. I'll just throw this out, because Martha and Jack actually liked my idea of the movie theater, and having the opportunity for people to go to the movie theater on a really hot day and watch a movie. Now, I'm opposed to paying for soda and popcorn and all that other stuff, but going to the movies and just relaxing for a couple hours on a hot day, I thought would be an excellent idea. We just have to find a way to fund that. And there's a lot of different ideas out there. We have the rec center. People can use the pool. There's the splash pad. There's other locations. I'd love to see the state step up in all of this and say, let's open our state parks for free up in Woodford and in Shasbury. So we have a lot of work to do to get people on board to make things happen. I'm not opposed to having people leave Bennington and go to the Shasbury State Park or Woodford State Park. We have a good working relationship with the Green Mountain bus line on Pleasant Street, but sometimes it's going to take funding, and so there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to working with our community groups. I'm looking forward to hearing from people at home. Anybody can access our website and leave their ideas. You're not filing a complaint. Don't do that. But you can leave us information. That information comes right to Lieutenant Grandy and I. I can print all of that, or I can forward emails to whoever is going to be on our committee. So again, looking forward to this project. It's going to take a lot of work, but I sincerely believe that we can make things happen because there's a lot of supportive people in our community.
Thank you.
Questions?
So I'll take questions. Yeah, and I do want to say that when we did the LIMP. When we did the local emergency management plan, I asked for volunteers to work on this, so Tom and I are the representatives to this group. Go ahead, Clark.
Hi, I remember a few weeks ago when you came in and discussed this issue, one of the topics that came up was not just having facilities, but facilities that were adequate to meet the needs of the population they were serving. And I'm wondering if there's a template or a standard that could be disseminated across the community to individuals who potentially may be able to provide the services we need. You know, people may not know that they have what we need, or may not know what they need to provide. So I'm wondering if someone would get that information out.
We could. That's a great question. We can certainly do that. I mean, because there's a difference between a shelter and a location and things like that. When we start tossing the word shelter around, that means that we've got to allow people to be housed, spend the night, and we have to feed them and shower them and things like that. So I certainly have access to that, and we can make that available. Maybe I could work with Jonah, and we could post something on the town's website about that. So that's a great idea, Clark. I wrote it down.
Others, Nancy, go ahead.
I was glad to hear you talk about the other towns in Bennington County needing to step up. Is anybody in Bennington communicating with them? So if they are doing things in other towns, is this being posted on our town website, or do you have to go to the other towns to find this out?
I'm hoping that this is going to be a topic on our agenda for our meeting in the month of August. We are meeting, a couple months ago, we met in Manchester. We spread the meeting around.
There's a regional emergency management plan meeting that's meeting in Arlington on Election Day.
Yeah, it's in a couple of weeks, but I'm hoping to add that to the agenda when Dara sends out the email that says, what would you like on the agenda? I plan to put this on because I'd like to see what other towns are doing in Bennington County. Because right now I'm not aware of anything other than public libraries and things like that as far as cooling goes. Yep. But I think it's important. Again, I mean, listen, I mean, Bennington, you know, is a county seat, and but we need to take care of our own also. So
we also do want to add, though, that we are obviously not the only county in the state that's looking at this. Some counties and some towns are do have more of a plan than we have. So we are also looking at what other towns have done, where they found facilities, how they've managed that.
If I could just mention, though, to Nancy's point, that this is another area where communication, advanced posting, notification to residents of those other towns is just as important.
Yeah.
It's a matter of being prepared ahead of time so that people know where to look, where to go in the county, but not necessarily right in Bennington.
Right. I mean, a great example of that is the regional shelter for Bennington County is Mount Anthony Union Middle School.
That's in case of like a natural disaster.
Right.
Though, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's not
right.
cooling system.
Right. But what I'm saying, I'm just giving you as an example of what we would have to do for the county if we had a disaster. Has nothing to do. It was just an example.
One other question, you know, again, we keep discussing things that need to be done, but I was kind of taken aback with your initial statement that the individual at BCRC who kind of helps get the ball rolling, and that funding is being cut back on that position. Is that an internal decision, or did some state funding disappear, or more importantly, what can we do to ensure that this person or whoever's in that position is there to do those things that need to be done?
Okay, so I don't want to be quoted on this because I'm going to give you what I understand. What I understand is that the state is taking the funding, okay, and they're creating 3 positions statewide. So right now, they're county positions. Now they're going to create 3 state jobs, 3 state positions, and Bennington and Rutland are going to be encompassed into one group. So now one person will do all of Rutland County and all of Bennington County.
And we also have DARA until October 2nd.
Right, but that's That's my understanding of what's happening. So take the funding from Bennington County and now create a state position and fund 2 counties. That leaves only 2 other positions to do the rest of the state. And right now, Clark, honestly, and everybody at home and the people here, when you stop and think, Bennington has been very lucky this last 13 or 14 months, because all the storms have whacked up north.
Correct.
And we've been very lucky. So, to only have 3 positions in the entire state, I don't know. I'm not the Commissioner of Public Safety, and I have no interest in that. And but that's what's happening. So.
So Clark, also, I mean, Dara has many tasks under her responsibility, so emergency management planning was one of them. So that's the piece that they're removing. Reallocating. But it is, Dara's very, I mean, she's fantastic.
She's excellent.
I think we're feeling the loss because we won't get this kind of attention.
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely excellent. I mean, she's a planner, she's a doer, and we'll miss her, in this role. So all the more reason to be better prepared.
Right, I understand all that, but again, my thought would be, I'm asking you, what is there something we, the select board, can do to compensate for this shift? I mean, is there some other resources or allocation that we can do internally to keep this need being met?
Internally, we have to move forward, make some adjustments to our local emergency management plan, and then continue to support that plan locally. And we'll have to wait and see what the effects are of Dara not being available to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the select board? Public, questions? Yes, please, come up. Yes, please. And identify yourself, please.
I'm Mary Ellen Munley from Bennington, and I appreciate that this is being looked into and that it's a long-term process. I'm an optimist in the sense that it seems to me that if we could be creative, we'll find things that could happen while we're waiting. And I'm a part of 2 organizations that I'm pretty confident that if I brought this idea to them, they would step up to be eligible to be, or express interest in being a cooling center. So the sooner that you can get that information out into the public so that people know, that would be extremely helpful, because I can't go to them without something. Okay. The other thing is that my guess is that there are a lot of fans and air conditioners in people's back rooms or attics or things like that. And I'm just also wondering, is there a way, or do you have a suggestion of how those could gather someplace or be available someplace so that people who might need them could get them and could get them right away? There are lots of people who are quite willing and in a position right now to just give them away. How do we do that?
I think we have to be very careful with that. I'm going to tell you why. This is my opinion. I'm sure there are lots of people that have air conditioners in their homes that might be 5 or 6 years old. They may not be effective, and they're sitting there because they don't want to pay the dump fee. And the last thing I would want is for someone to donate an air conditioner, and now I, as the public safety director, have to go and ask Stuart for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to properly dispose of air conditioners that don't work. The other thing is if we install a faulty air conditioner in someone's home, where does the liability rest? Mm-hmm. So I think that if we were gonna do anything, and I look at Shannon, not to give her more work to do, but I mean, is there grant funding out there to supply residents with AC units? I mean, right now, Green Mountain Power, you can install mini splits in your home. There's a huge rebate, what have you. But as far as, and I love your idea about trying to get products to people, but there's so much liability in giving someone, it's like getting a used car seat, right? I mean, if there's liability associated with it, that's not anything I'm interested in.
I'm aware of some federal laws that relate to when people make donations, like donations of food and things like that, which also have huge liability related to them, that there's a waiver when it's an actual donation that's being given that doesn't hold someone as accountable. I do not know if that is true about other products checks, and I do know that there are places where people can sign off on waivers that they won't, sue or whatever.
I know, but-
My only thing is to ask that we find whatever solutions we can, and just sort of relatively simple ones, and ask as many questions about the things that might get in the way that could possibly be resolved, so that these simple things could possibly take place in our community the way they do in some others. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anyone else? No? No more questions? All right. Thank you very much for
Thank
filling
you.
us in. Look forward to hearing the progress.
Thank you, Chief.
Bye-bye. All right. Let's see. Next up, the Select Board Rules of Procedure, second reading. So we made some changes in this document last time. Particularly, we made a change under number 5, which is public participation. The 12th item now reads, members of the public may comment on any item on the agenda as long as it's germane. And then under liaison positions, under number 6, we corrected a typo. Let's have at it again. Anyone have questions? Yes, Nancy.
I asked at the last reading to be provided with information, what is actually state law and what isn't. I know this is a template from the League of Cities and Towns. I would just like to know what they're suggesting. I think probably Select Board, maybe some town officials got together and added things in here.
I sent that out to everybody. I sent out the VLCT template the day after the meeting.
I reviewed it.
So we all have it, and I think we also have the attorney that we met with for the training last week said that he had also reviewed this and had no suggestions. There were no red flags for him. So I did do that. Jean.
First of all, I'm very sorry. I have quite a few questions.
Oh, don't apologize.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so we don't have page numbers.
Just give us the section you're in.
Motions and voting.
Okay.
Number 14.
Okay.
I'm not sure what this is trying to say. The collective silent acquiescence of the body in response to a motion will signify its unanimous consent. So if someone makes a motion and there's silence, there is no motion because we didn't vote on it. Then the motion fails. If there's no vote, there's nothing. If there's no second and it doesn't proceed.
I'm glad you raised this, because this one bothers me. I think what they're saying is if we all go, yep, then we can move on, but that feels really...
No.
So I would be really happy to strike it. What do other people think? Okay, 14's gone.
Should I make a motion to strike 14?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to strike 15 because I'll discussion after
14.
that. Do we proceed with it?
And now
14.
I can't remember.
Wait. A motion's on the table.
Okay.
Do you want to second it?
I may have an addendum to it.
Well,
Nancy just made a second.
I'll second it. Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, now discussion. All right. Go ahead. You have an addendum?
Should we also put in, if we're going to strike it, we're going to strike it. The other thing is to rewrite it and include, unless it exists somewhere else, and quite frankly, I don't remember, if a motion does not get a second.
It says the motion has to have a second.
So
Okay.
It isn't a motion. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
But that's in there already? Okay. Then we can strike it.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like that is, and I think I'm just kind of beating a dead horse with this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. Number 14 feels like it should read, if a motion is made, and then something, something, something. So, yeah.
Or it's not necessary to have it in there at all.
Yeah.
No,
I think we
let's
agreed
just
to
strike it.
We have a motion on
It's gone.
All
Motion
right.
is second as
Okay.
well.
Any other discussion on it?
on 14.
14, no.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, 14's gone. All right, what else?
Section 5, public participation.
Yep.
The first and second one, the first one doesn't seem like it needs to exist anymore. If the second one said, all meetings of the body are open to the public is not allowed to be present for executive sessions. I think there needs to be something in here addressing executive sessions.
I don't want to change the public participation, because this is following state law, and it's VLCT. So I'm wondering.
Don't 1 and 2 then basically say the same exact thing?
No, so the number 1 says that the meetings are not for the public. The public is allowed to come to meetings.
Very different meaning. You
Okay.
understand that? One is meetings are open.
No, I
but
do
they are not
understand it,
full- yeah.
but I don't know that we need to have it separated out, but that's fine.
The VLCT, I think we do, just for open meeting law.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm not going
it's
to
redundant, I get
belabor it,
but-
that's fine, let's
okay.
move on. I think the next page for public participation, number 18, I think it would be helpful if we added, meetings may be recorded by any member of the public unless doing so constitutes an actual disruption to the proceedings of the meeting as determined by the presiding officer.
This, again, is exact language.
Okay.
So I'm uncomfortable playing with this because it is exact language.
Is the liaison positions, number 1, is that language?
No, so the language in the liaison position is just what we've done. So this is.
We can edit that?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all us.
Okay. Select board member, number 1, select board members may be asked to serve in specified liaison positions. I just think there needs to be some sort of explanation on what you're talking about on local, not-for-profit boards or other boards with a connection to the community or something. Let's see. Number 3, liaison positions are for the purpose of increasing the flow of information between the select board and said organizations or boards, just to reference, if it gets put in, what I just said up for the number 1.
Yeah. That's fine. I think we just need to, I think we want to make sure we don't box ourselves into something. I think that's the only.
Well, yeah, make
language
it
for
broad
1.
enough that it'll work. There just needs to be some sort of context on what.
The specified liaison positions determined by the board?
I don't think it's necessary at all.
Okay.
Because I think that the word specified kind of covers that, in that when we want to create a liaison position, we specify which committee we're going to be sending that liaison to.
And they could change.
And then those positions could change, exactly, from year to year or from board to board. I think by saying that the liaison positions are specified, what that means is when we, like we do every year, we say we're going to send this liaison to the library, this liaison to the Energy Committee, what have you. So I think the language is clear when we do appoint the liaisons. I just don't think we need to overcomplicate the language in the document.
So then what happens with 3 then, Tom? Do we change it? I mean, are there ways we can make that clear?
I'm not sure what's unclear on 3.
Okay.
The word specific, changing it to.
Liaison position, liaison organizations?
And those boards and organizations that have been assigned a liaison.
Between the select board and those boards and organizations.
That have been assigned a liaison.
That have been assigned, okay.
Assigned.
That are assigned.
You're saying liaison twice in the same sentence. But
Oh, no.
And I don't like that.
Okay, guys, you are getting to watch us do weeds.
This is hard work.
But hopefully, okay, so it would read, liaison positions are for the purpose of increasing the flow of information between the select board and those boards and organizations that are assigned liaisons.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I only have one more meeting minutes, so
Well, so should we do these one at a time? Does anyone want to make a motion? What do you guys think about changing this? Are you comfortable with that? Someone want to make a motion?
I have a question about liaisons. Do we have a policy for liaisons?
This is what we're doing. Right now, we're doing rules of procedure.
So it's a procedure.
Yeah, it's not a policy, it's a
But
procedure.
there should be a policy.
Well-
When I read the flow of information, what information is the select board one person talking to the board about? Because I raised in the past, if we don't go to the meetings and the public doesn't watch, we don't know what the select board and the committee is talking about.
So that's a totally, if we want to talk about whether a policy is appropriate, we can do that, but right now, we're talking about the procedures. So I'm writing it down, and we can ask, there are rules about what should be a policy and what should be a procedure, and right now, what we're trying to do is lay out how we work as a...
I would remove the whole section until we come up with the policy.
I would not, because that's the world that we are currently functioning in. And so the policies that we have, implied or not, need procedures. This is the procedure to run that part of our work. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are allowed this under law.
And
so.
this is extremely valuable for those that are interested. The flow of information.
But I think it's more valuable.
So again, I want to keep us on procedures. So do we have any other questions? You've suggested that we remove liaison from the procedures. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that for the discussion.
Okay, discussion? I'm opposed to it.
I'm opposed to it. I don't know what else to discuss. The flow of information is extremely valuable.
Any other discussion?
There's oftentimes when these boards and organizations, although we have short public comment opportunity, getting on an agenda could be weeks or months out. I think it's important that we reach out to the community in this fashion. It's another way that this board can reach out to the community.
Well, yes, and so in some cases, we are required by some committees to have a liaison. Two of the organizations we have liaisons on, one we vote every year to give $500,000 to, the other one $300,000 to, and I certainly think it is useful for us to have a person attending those meetings so that if something comes up, we can make sure that we're addressing it as a board. The others are boards that work very closely with us, and it makes sense to have somebody there. So to not address liaison positions in procedures when in fact, in some cases, we have to have them, and in other cases, it is, I think, a really prudent idea, is not responsible, I don't think.
And this is a policy we can change, so, and I'm not in favor of changing this at the moment. I think this is fine. I just want to open it for discussion, just
Okay.
noting that.
So for the procedures, rather than policy, yeah. Okay.
I just want to open it for discussion. I'm just noting that, so I'm kind of kicking myself to open it for discussion at the moment.
So we have a
Thank you.
motion and a second.
Yeah, okay, so any more discussion? All right. All those in favor of eliminating the liaison position section of the procedures, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to it, please say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion fails. So back to that liaison position section. Is there any, besides number 3, are there any other changes we want to make in this section? Yes.
Number 2, I don't think any liaison should be an actual part of the committee or the board voting. I know somebody's doing it on the Energy Board. Was it set up that way 5 years ago?
Yes, it was set up that way when the Energy Committee was set up.
Okay.
The chair at the time felt it was really important that the Energy Committee member from the Select Board be a voting member. So that has been the case since the beginning, and
It's up to that committee, not up to this board.
No, it isn't. It's,
They determined it when they formed.
no, we determined it when we formed them.
Okay.
Okay. So we set up the Energy Committee with a voting member from the Select Board.
Okay.
Okay. It was under a different chair.
As your colleague on this board, I hear where you're coming from, so that's also why I currently don't serve as liaison, because I don't want to recuse myself. So I hear where you're coming from.
I don't know how you're tied in with, but yeah, I think...
No, I don't serve as a liaison right now on any boards.
Oh, okay.
Well, the only one that is a voting member, as opposed to a liaison, is the Energy Committee. And so technically, they're not a liaison, they're a voting member.
They're they're a member of the board.
Voting member
I don't know
of the
what you're
committee.
saying, but what I am saying is that a liaison, by definition, is not a voting member. So the Energy Committee member is not a liaison. They are a voting member that happens to be also on the Select Board. So the Energy Committee is actually not even moot. It's not even on here.
To separate, yeah.
Yeah, excuse me, could we make some sort of formal declaration or statement that in fact these liaison positions, excluding the board member who sits with the Energy Committee, what their duties are? Because again, if they're serving as a member of that committee, they're not, by your own definition, they're clearly not liaisons. I think we should have something that clarifies that.
Well, number 2 says that.
We actually do. So what number 2 says, yeah, positions are non-voting. We can say liaison positions are non-voting positions. Is that what you're suggesting?
Right. But I'm
We can
saying,
do that.
But I mean, we need to be quite clear that the Energy Committee individual is not a liaison. They're a representative from appointed there by the Select Board.
Okay, so let's just say liaison positions are non-voting positions, or not liaisons positions. Somebody reword this. We can.
Liaison positions
Are non-voting.
are non-voting, period.
Okay. Woo!
And we're removing
Sorry,
the
guys,
energy-
we're getting this done.
And we're
Okay.
removing the Energy Committee from the equation.
Okay, all right. So, all right, so now we've made changes to 2 and 3. Does someone want to make a motion to approve those changes?
What was the change to 3? I'm sorry.
It says liaison positions are for the purpose of increasing the flow of information between the Select Board and those boards and organizations that are assigned liaisons.
Thank you. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
We've been doing it, so.
So,
I'll make a
Motion for both?
motion. I'll make a motion for both, as you just stated. I think that's helpful.
I do too.
To take that
Yeah.
away.
and you just seconded that? I'll second it?
Sure.
I second it.
All right.
2 and 3.
Any more discussion?
Sure. On 5? What is the...
No, we're doing 2
all right,
and 3
sorry.
right now. Yes, and it would have been helpful for you to have said that before we made the motion, but nevertheless, any more on 2 and 3? No? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Nancy
No.
is a no. Any abstentions? All right. All right, perfect. Number 5? Nancy?
That's all right. I'll go to a
Okay.
different section.
Okay, anything else? Jean, you were on a roll.
I'm almost done,
Okay.
I promise. Number 8, meeting minutes. Should number 3 and number 4 say unapproved minutes rather than just minutes?
Number 8?
Section 8.
Section
number 3.
8, number 3 and 4.
Okay. That's also where I was trying to find the number 8 there.
Okay. So these are required by open
Do you
meeting law.
understand what she said, though?
No.
Approved minutes.
They
must
can't be approved they won't be approved 5 days after a meeting.
No,
They won't be
they-
approved until the next meeting.
Well, I know that,
But, no, this is state law again.
Yeah, this is what
This is
So
open
these-
meeting law. I don't want to change open meeting
If I may, these minutes are being made available before they're approved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they
And
are.
that's the
That's
law.
state law.
Yeah, yeah, I think if it's state law, we think we want to stay away from it. Okay, any other changes on the procedures? Yes.
I want to go to meetings. Can I go to meetings, number
Sure.
3?
You want to go where?
Number 3.
Meetings, section 3.
Section 3. Okay, yes.
Number 4, doesn't that deal with all the changes that the legislature passed this year? We don't have to actually come to meetings. People can participate by Zoom.
This is state law, again.
But
And
this
this
is,
didn't change. This part didn't change, as far
I
as I
believe
know.
this is what the legislature passed this
So long
year.
as the member identifies when it is...
So
No, this
they
is
always
talking
had the
about
right-
voting.
So I can clarify. So they've always had the right to do this. If the board allowed it or could accommodate it, now it is state law that any select board member who wishes to attend remotely, it's only required that it be audio, but it could also be audio and video together, has the right to do that if they request it 3 days before the meeting. So it used to be by, if the board could accommodate it or wanted to accommodate it, now it's very clear, and it says right here that, they may attend a regular, so this does reflect current law. It was always our practice to allow folks, if there was a special situation, now you don't need a special situation.
But didn't
Anybody
this
can
just
apply.
get passed this year?
No, well,
No.
it clarified this. It made this now a right instead of an ability, just the ability to do it. Now you have the right to do it.
So how many of us have to actually be at a meeting?
Well, actually,
So the other 6 of us could be at home and do meetings that way?
you could if the other folks, if everyone requested that specifically. Yeah, you have to specifically request to attend remotely as a board member under the state law.
But
Now,
is-
of course, this board could say, well, we're going to let anybody, we will set it up as a remote meeting for the select board so long as there are physical location for the public to attend.
So let's make sure that we are sticking to the procedure right
Yep.
now rather than getting
But
into anything else.
One of the laws that they passed this year, doesn't it say that citizens can request
Yes,
to
citizens.
participate remotely?
But that's
Just
not
like
what
a
this
board
is
member.
referring
But this
to.
doesn't have any, this is about board practice.
This is
not
this is procedures for the board.
Yeah.
But if citizens are now allowed to participate remotely, we should have this so we know what the
Nancy,
law is.
no, these are procedures for us. The law is separate. It's
Yeah.
not, these are procedures for us. We're not including all the things for the public. This is just procedures for the select board.
This is how we conduct ourselves.
So if a citizen says, okay, the law says I can participate remotely, who do they contact?
We have that information on our website, and they can contact Jonah or me or Stuart, and we will accommodate that request.
Starting back... a couple
Starting
months
July
ago?
1st.
Yeah.
Starting July.
Okay.
For, just to clarify, will that also have to be 3 days in advance?
Yes.
Okay.
And it only applies to one meeting at a time. So you couldn't just say, hey, I really just want to attend remotely all the meetings, so please make accommodations for me. That's not required under the law.
Okay, so, all right, so anything else? Nancy? Yes.
Under motions and voting, section 12,
Yep. Section 4?
That's 4.
I'm sorry.
Item 12?
Any member of the body can request a roll call vote. I think all of our votes should tell exactly who voted which way.
They do.
We do.
They're captured in the minutes.
And that is why I'm having us all raise our hands, because we actually got some complaints from the public saying that they could not always tell if people voted or not. So that is why we are now saying aye and raising our hands.
So all of the minutes are going to reflect who voted yes, who voted no.
That's always been.
It's always
Well,
been the
I'm
case,
just
yeah.
That's
going through and
required by
making sure.
law. Yes.
So what this refers to, Nancy, is if you wanted to have a roll call, then Jeannie, as the chair, could say, Jean, how do you vote? Yay. Clark, how do you vote? Nay. And go down the list. If you wanted that to happen, you have the right to do
As
that.
opposed to everyone
raising their hand or saying nay at the same
yay,
time.
Okay.
raise your hand.
Yep.
Yep.
On 15, motions to end or limit the debate will be entertained. Does that mean if there's a hot topic and there's 50 people in here who want to discuss it, the chair can say we're only going to listen to so many people?
Well, I never make motions, in case you haven't noticed, but I don't do that because I don't think it's fair. But it means that any other member of the select board could do that, and I have seen that done when it has made me pretty angry, not on this board, but in other situations. But yes, that does mean that. It also means, but what it really means, I think more usually, is that if someone is really far off topic and we are, an hour into discussion that really shouldn't be happening, someone could make a motion to say, let's call the vote.
That's a formal way for somebody to, instead of somebody just saying, could we move on? That's the formal way to bring the group back to the business at hand, which is, do we have a motion and are we ready for a vote or not?
But if there's a topic where multiple citizens come in and want to speak, I'm concerned that if 20 people talk, somebody will say, okay, we really need to move on. I want to make sure the public has a chance to speak.
This actually is part of Robert's rules.
Yeah, this would be a motion, so it would be discussed by this board like any other motion. So if, say, Ed made the motion, I seconded it, then we would discuss whether or not it would be proper to end the conversation at that time, in which case you could certainly...
Yeah, you might vote no.
And could certainly express that you think...
We might all vote no, right?
Right.
Like just now, someone may second a motion that they're not actually in favor of, just for discussion.
I've got more questions. I don't know if anybody else has some.
Well, so the purpose of this, I just want to make an observation. The purpose of us doing this now is to make sure the language is accurate. When we have questions about what does something mean or how does it apply, it's better to do that outside of the meeting so that we come to the meeting saying, okay, I understand this means this and I'm concerned about it. I don't want it, I don't like this item, as opposed to what does this mean? Because what we're doing right now is trying to finalize these rules and make sure that the language reflects what reflects law, reflects our current practices and our aspirational practices. So are there other items in here that we feel like we should amend?
I'm not sure if this is something we should amend or something. I'm just wondering, under order, all comments must be addressed to the presiding officer. I know this is state, so I don't know this is
What number are you on, Sarah?
Order.
Yep.
And
Four?
So if you...
Yes, 4.
I was surprised to see this in here at first because it is what we do in terms of public comment and also for when we have someone coming up to the podium to give a presentation.
Right.
It turns out that this has been a VLCT best practice, and actually when we amended our rules for how to proceed for public comment in any situation, that got added to our rules maybe a year ago, and I think it is because it's best practice. And the reason, I think we can all remember times when people in the public can get a little heated, and instead of addressing us, who got elected to take heat, they're pointing at some poor soul who's up there just trying to explain some great program they have. And so so the best practice is so that the question comes to us, and then we can say, oh, Caroline, would you like to respond to that? Or rephrase it and reframe it so that it doesn't become a heated debate between someone in the public and someone on agenda item.
I guess my thought on that makes, I think that's what we're working at. I guess my thought after that is, when we're commenting, do we address our comment to the chair as well?
Us?
Yes. Under order.
No.
Okay.
No.
And then 5, I think this is important to point out. No person may disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede, except for point of order, the orderly conduct of the meeting, or interrupt any person while they're speaking. I really think that's important to the public and on our board level.
Great.
I think I need to keep that in mind, and I just wanted to point that out.
We could put exclamation points.
Yes, I highlight exclamation points.
Sarah, it's a good point. Thank
It's
you
a very good
Thank
point.
you for raising it.
And I know I have to remember that myself.
I do
I think
too.
we all do. Great. Any other comments on these procedures?
6, I'm going to point 6 out again.
6 under,
Order. I think that's an important way. I think now that we're going over this, I think let's do it now. I'll just point that one out. The only person who may interrupt another from speaking are a member from the body for the point of order directed towards the presiding officer or to the presiding officer themselves to enforce the rule.
yep.
So I'm going to try and remember that myself, and I think that's just really important to mention.
Agreed.
And then I'm going to keep going. I'm on a roll
Well,
here.
don't, because
read
it
them to
is
us.
7:20 and, yeah.
that was disruption. I'm going to...
No, so that is that piece, the presiding officer themselves to enforce a rule, which is that we're way over time, and the point that we are doing now is looking at this to determine whether there are any other changes we want to make to this before we vote on it.
If I may,
Sure.
I would like to call one and just point it out while we're on this.
Okay.
Thank
go
you.
right
I appreciate that.
ahead. Okay, where?
7, speakers must refrain from repetitious speech or speech that is irrelevant to the business of the body.
Yes.
I would like to point that out while we're going over this. Because we
Yes.
don't do this, and this is something that came up.
Okay, so it sounds like you are in favor of the points under order.
Yes, and I really want to just illustrate that
Okay.
while we're doing this.
Okay, all right, I appreciate
I don't want to make any changes, but I really just want to go over those
I have
and
a
remember
comment
that
on
for
that.
myself.
Speakers must refrain from repetitious speech. If the speaker has asked the same question multiple times for months and nobody answers the question, that leads to repetitious speech.
I would suggest that there are other ways to, I think if a board member or a member of the public is feeling frustrated, then we need to be looking at what is the source of that frustration and are there ways to alleviate that frustration. So repetitious speech, if it's not working, then let's contact the town manager, contact the chair or the vice chair, and let's figure out what will make things different. So, back to the procedures for the meeting, because we have another policy after this one. I am so sorry, folks. Is there anything else on these sets of rules of procedure for meetings for the select board?
I would
Yeah.
move that, okay.
Nancy?
5, public participation. Each agenda item, but before action is taken, time will be afforded for open public comment. If it's an agenda item, citizens should have the right to ask questions about a proposed project, program, or spending and actually get an answer.
Where does it say that?
Under 5, number 6.
Number 6. What it says is, at the discussion of each agenda item, but before any action is taken by the public body at each meeting, time will be afforded for open public comment. By majority vote, the body may increase the time for open public comment and its place on the agenda. That is what number 6 says.
And I believe we're doing that.
I believe we are. So Nancy,
Yes, here's my question that I've raised for probably 5 years. The public was always encouraged and welcome to bring their questions here, and the board would bend over backwards to provide an answer, a project or program, something in the neighborhood. In the past couple of years, what the public always had for their questions went to comment. So now, if you have an item on an agenda, a citizen should be able to ask a question on that project or program or spending and get an answer. What good does it do somebody to come here and ask a question?
So I'm going to interrupt you because that is our practice. And if we can't answer it then, we either bring an answer to the next meeting, or more usually, the individual is invited to sit down with the appropriate staff person to get more information, because it's often personal questions that are being asked as opposed to things that actually matter to the entire body. So this language is completely taken from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
But they're not setting the law.
And it's accurate.
It says public comment. It should say public comment and questions.
No, it should say public comment. That is the language that is used by the law, is public
That's what
comment.
state law says, or is that what League of Cities and Towns suggests?
So, and what I would suggest is that when we met with the trainer last week with Attorney Jim Carroll, he left us with a whole envelope of materials that go over many of the laws and policies that form what we're doing, the procedures that we're doing tonight. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at those materials.
I'm asking if
but they
Vermont
do.
state law still allows citizens to ask a question at a select board meeting, rather than just make a comment.
Sure.
Public comment includes questions.
Okay, then it should say it on here. It says
We're not
public
changing the
comment.
language because this is the language.
That's the definition of public comment.
Okay. So anything else?
13, a member of the public can only speak more than once on the same agenda item, time permitting after the consent of the presiding officer and only after each other member of the public is given an opportunity to speak. If they ask that one question, depending on the answer, they may need a follow-up question or clarification. Are they going to be allowed to do that?
So we have been doing this for over a year now, and it is in our public comment procedures already. We do, Susan asks a question, then Sam asks a question, then Max asks a question, and then if there's no one else that has a question, we'll go back and take another question from somebody that's already asked a question. And that way, not one person doesn't monopolize the time.
But the issue is you may have a few people that know a lot more about the projects and programs than the rest.
And I think it goes back to then those folks might want to sit down with staff and get answers to their questions rather than doing it this way. But yes, it is to make sure that no one person monopolizes the conversation.
Number 17, the public's right to comment under other business and the manager's report is limited to action items. Again, Bennington residents were always allowed to ask the manager questions after his report. That changed a couple of years ago.
And the town manager is always available. So if there's anything in the manager's report, which is actually in the packet, and so available 5 days before we have the meeting, if there's anything in the manager's report that they have questions about, they absolutely can contact the manager.
But why did it change? It worked well for decades. Why should a citizen...
I don't know. So does anyone, 17, anyone wants to change on 17?
This board needs to take action on action items. That's why it is specific to action items. It'll clearly tell you in the manager's report that other items are for informational purposes only. The manager's office is always open.
I'm just interested to know why it changed a couple of years ago.
Nancy, I have no information about it changing or not changing, so I'd like to move on.
All right, any other questions on procedures?
I'd like to move forward and make a motion to adopt this. I don't want to go ahead and change anything since this is recommended by the state.
Okay, so with the changes that we have.
Correct,
we have
yes,
voted
with the
on.
changes
All
that
right,
we have.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Dare I ask, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no.
No.
Nancy opposes. Any abstentions? All right, Thank you all. I will point out that because the majority of people voted on these rules of procedures, these are the rules we follow.
Thank you.
All right.
What I'll do, instead of handing around the policy to be signed or the procedures to be signed this evening, I'll make sure the changes are made and just have them signed as part of the consent agenda in
Thank you.
the next meeting.
Okay. Oh, that's great. All right. Let's move on to the social media policy. Jonah is not able to be here with us tonight, so Dan is going to try and answer any questions that come up that we might have on this. The only thing we wanted to change, I believe, on it was that this policy will be revisited no later than 5 years after adoption. So adding a sentence of that sort. So otherwise, we had no changes on this one, I believe. None at all.
Since this is the second reading, would it be appropriate for me to make a motion that we accept this policy?
Sure.
I'm making that motion. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just have clarification. I know we mentioned we were going to add in the idea of a review. What line was that added to?
Oh, it's the very end.
150.
The very end, yes. Yep. 150.
Okay. All right.
And I guess just for FYI, a member of the public, I don't know if I can say her name or not, but a member of the public very kindly emailed us and said that she had worked on school boards and that they kept a handy-dandy chart that said, here's when this policy was adopted and here's when it should be reviewed. And so it was a great suggestion. So Jonah very kindly made up a chart, and we realized that the adoption dates are all over the place. So he's going to work on, I think he and Dan are working on sort of simplifying that so we can review things on a more regular basis. But I think, this policy and others would then be, reviewed. We wouldn't have to count on the public reminding us when things need to be reviewed.
And that member of the public knows who they are. That was a terrific suggestion.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Are we comfortable with this policy? Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh. Nancy is opposed, and any abstentions? Okay.
Since there were no changes, I will pass this around
All right,
for folks to
perfect.
sign, and then
Okay.
Nancy.
And so because it was voted on, it will be the policy that we live by.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay, that brings us to a really happy time. The appointments to the Charter Review Committee. I want to say this was really rewarding. We had 22 applicants for 7 positions, which is just amazing. 2 of the individuals were not able to interview, and so over the last 3 days last week, we interviewed 20 Bennington residents, and it was fantastic. They were a really strong applicant pool. They talked about Bennington in such wonderful ways. They all had very wonderful ideas about how to make Bennington even better. And, I think it was really, I think, an enjoyable time for all of us. All 20 of the applicants, we set questions ahead of time. All 20 of the applicants were asked the same 6 questions in the same order, and they each had 20 minutes to interview. And I think, it was a really rewarding, process for us. We thank everyone who applied to be on the committee. Obviously, if you have 20 people interviewed, they're not all going to be able to be on the committee, even though there were a lot of really, really good candidates. So,
Can I just add one comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Even the folks who are not being seated on that committee, because as the chair just said, there are 7 seats and 20 people that met with us last week, I took away some terrific feedback, Bennington feedback, board feedback, personal feedback that I am very grateful for. So I wanted to share that with the public.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read the slate, all right? And then we'll look for a motion to accept the slate. Carolyn Gilbert, Drew Learman, Jackie Matz, Colleen McQuaid, Michael Moscato, Rebecca Sintner, and Jim Vyers. Could I have a motion to accept this slate?
So moved.
Wonderful. Second?
Second.
Clark is seconding. Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor of this slate, please say aye. Do we need discussion? Okay, we need discussion. Sorry.
Okay.
Discussion
I'll be abstaining as I wasn't there on
on the third day.
Was that a Saturday?
Friday.
Friday. As I wasn't, what day is it? As I wasn't there on the last day.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention, Sarah. Excellent. Thank you very much. We have several members of the committee here, and I'd love for them just to come up and introduce themselves just by saying their name, and that would be really lovely. Yeah, yeah. Either a microphone. Just go to it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Matz. I'm a resident of Bennington. I'm honored to be serving on this committee.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Sentner. I'm also a resident of Bennington and very excited about this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Jim Byers from Bennington. It's nice to be behind a camera and helping out the community in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Again, I think, one of the things that we talked about in the interviews was that we would not be able to appoint everyone that that we wanted to this committee, and that we do hope that everyone will remain involved. The meetings will be open, and this is a committee that is very, very eager to hear and listen to the public. So we heard that loud and clear, which is wonderful. So again, thank you very, very much for your service. All right, anything else we want to share before we move on? No? Okay. Oh, sure.
Yeah, again, I want to reiterate that a good number of people expressed an interest and came in to be interviewed, and I was duly impressed with the number of good-hearted people in this town who want to do good for this town. And I just can't stress that this was a hard decision to make, and there was several times where I just couldn't cut anybody from the herd. They were all good choices, so I said I'd take any one of these people on this committee. So those of you who weren't selected, thank you for coming. My apologies that I couldn't take all of you, but I would if I could have. Thank you.
He's not kidding either. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Clark. All right, we're moving on to the manager's report.
Okay. There are no action items this evening, just informational, so I'll run through those and certainly answer any questions you might have. I do want to make sure that folks are aware of the Y-Woods Draft Forest Management Plan. On July 24th, the Draft Forest Management Plan for the Y-Woods will be reviewed at a public meeting at the Bennington Fire Facility at 6 p.m. That was developed by the DPW director, the county forester, and the Southwest Tech Forest.
Dan, can you use your microphone? Thanks.
Sorry, I thought
it's really hard to hear down
You're
here.
very quiet. Nobody can hear you.
All right, so just to reiterate then, on July 24th, the forest management plan for the Y-Woods will be reviewed at a public meeting at the Bennington Fire Facility right here at 6 p.m. Anyone interested in that particular plan should come to the meeting and learn about it. Also, with regard to the Rotary Park and the skate park, I did want to clarify that there will be one Norway maple removed in that park for the skate park. None of the cherry trees will be removed, and that was the goal. I do know that it may have been unclear, because we did say perhaps at one time that no trees will be removed, should be no cherry trees will be removed, but one invasive species, Norway maple, will be removed, and there will be additional trees planted. So there'll be a net gain in trees, but that particular Norway maple will be removed, and it's at the far end of the park, well away from the roadway. Just want to kudos to our police department. The burglary on Main Street of Main Street Antiques, that particular case was solved. An individual was arrested, and very quickly after the event. Obviously, we hate to see these things happen, but we're happy that our police department was able to react quickly and arrest those folks. And the goal is to get more foot patrols in the downtown. Obviously, we continue to struggle with staffing levels, so it's not likely that we'll have a lot of patrols immediately, but that is the goal, to get more and more foot patrols downtown, because they are very effective, and I think it does help folks on Main Street to feel safe and good about the police efforts there. Also, we did have some vandalism at the rec center and the community garden. That was over the past weekend. The garden suffered some pretty significant damage. The rec center, very minor damage. Obviously, that's even though it's only minor damage, it's very aggravating that a public facility would be attacked like that. We do have some cameras that we're reviewing, and we may be able to identify some of the folks that caused the damage, but that investigation continues. And then finally, you'll see that the work at the Benmont Avenue Hunt Street intersection has resumed after some staffing difficulties, but that is going full forward speed ahead, and we'll stay right on that till it's finished. A couple of notes: the entire portion of Benmont Avenue that's being redone will be planed and resurfaced, and the center line will be striped in the appropriate location. The old center line was not in the new location, and that may be causing some folks to have some concern about the narrowing of the lanes there, but the lanes will be plenty wide, and the center line will be put back, and it will be put in the appropriate location, so both lanes are of equal width, and that will be all new pavement, all new striping, and so it should feel really good and safe in that location, and help to make that project a success. Happy to answer any questions about what was on the report.
Any questions? Nancy?
On Benmont, it says the town is adjusting some of the curbing along Hunt Street to widen the turn.
Yes.
I'm going to ask what I asked a couple of meetings ago. I know the plans have been done for the entire length of Benmont Avenue for about 10 years. Am I correct?
For quite some time. I don't know if it's 10, but it could be really close to that, yes.
And I know there were some property and business owners upset about the plans then, and I know there are some property and business owners that are still upset. I think that we need Dan to come in and explain what's going to happen on the entire street. I think we have to be willing to work with our business owners down there. I know a lot of it had to do with the width of the curbs that are going to go in front of their businesses where it's been open. I think it would help for the public to see what the plans are. I don't know if the plans were shown or not 10 years ago, but we have a lot of new people. If they were shown, most of the public never saw them, and I think it's important that people do see what the plans are.
So I'd be happy to come in and review the plans for the balance of the project before we do that. It's going to be quite some time, I think, before the additional work gets done.
But it's taken 10 years to get to this point, and knowing that some of the people, business owners that were upset 10 years ago are still upset now, I think we need to have a public discussion so we can all see what's going to happen going forward.
I also wonder if it would be helpful. I think a lot of that curbing, particularly in those areas like by the gas stations where you could sort of enter anywhere for, a pretty long distance, that's not considered safe.
It's considered very unsafe, and in fact, VTrans limits commercial curb cuts to a single curb cut of 40 feet in width. That particular property still has 3 curb cuts, 2 30-foot curb cuts, and a 50-foot wide curb cut. So it's still well in excess of what VTrans would allow on a state road, but still much safer than what was there before.
I think it's also important to note that when it comes to unhappy business owners or any concern, the staff has been fielding those concerns and answering them. So the information is out there, it's being shared when folks have reached out. I've overheard some of those conversations happening. So it's not a vacuum.
And unfortunately, we can't satisfy everyone. There's competing concerns. A lot of business owners would like wide open access to their property with no safety measures. But we feel like we made a reasonable accommodation and that it's going to be much safer and still accommodate traffic into all the businesses that are affected.
But I remember when the meetings were held, and they were held basically with the business owners, the public could go, but basically it was the business and property owners there. And I think the board and the public should have heard the concerns. And now it's finally moving forward 10 years later. We still have people down there upset. I think everybody should have a chance to see the plans. There may be another 10 years before you finish them, just so we can see if most of us are on the same page.
And as I mentioned, I'd be happy to come into the meeting with Mark Anders and our engineers and review the balance of the project sometime in the near future. But again, as Nancy has correctly stated, it may be a long time before we get funding to finish the project, but be happy to bring the plans in the next, say, few months and refresh everybody's memory on what we were hoping to do there.
All right. So
I do remember, too, the plans being presented to this board when I was on the board, and I was certainly not on the board 10 years ago, for at least the part of the project that's going on right now.
I thank you for saying that, because I have that memory as well. Particularly, we talked about what it was going to look like where the buses come out. So, it may not have been as detailed as where the curb cuts were all going to be, but I think, so maybe should we look at, so let's see if sometime in September.
September or sometime in the fall, I'd be happy to come in.
September, October.
And go over the plans. We could even do, we could do an update on all the bike ped projects that are planned.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
Including that one.
Yeah, and it also, I think, we should just remind people that if they have concerns, they shouldn't be stewing at home. They should reach out to the town manager and say, why do I have curb cuts instead of open access now? Certainly we've heard from people about concerns about the width of the road, and that led to action. So I think people just need to speak up.
And I think that width of the road is very much an illusion, because the center line the previous center line is not the current center line. Once the new center line is set, I think virtually all of those concerns about lane width will go away, because it is still very wide. But I do agree that there's the illusion that one lane is way narrower than perhaps it should be. But now we've removed that yellow line. It's still a black mark in the pavement, so there's still perhaps some people still feel like they're constricted, but there is a significant width there to accommodate more than adequate lanes.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, Dan, as someone who formerly used that as a shortcut to get home, I was wondering, is it possible to see a diagram that shows what that intersection just past the bridge in front of, Enterprise and the bus garage is going to look like? Because other than avoiding that new psychologically narrow road, I see that area and say, what the hell are they doing there? So maybe if we can, if we can have like a public, proposed drawing of what this is going to look like, because I'm sure a lot of people, if they saw what's coming down the road, it might clarify that fog that I have in my mind when I drive by there.
So I just want to make sure that I'm responding to your question. So what was planned is what's been installed. So you can actually go to the site and physically see it, but I can also show you the plans, but they'll reflect, they're going to show what's on the ground there now.
Well, the one, again, maybe I'll talk to you after, but when I go by there, again, historically, I'd always hang a left and cut through by the golf course to go home. But sometimes I'd go the other way, and I look at that, and I'm trying to think, how am I going to get in or out of there? Of course, I know it's in the middle of construction, but then, you factor in, again, as you're saying, that illusion of something that really isn't there. So the idea of having one of those artist rendering of the completed intersection will look like this, with the various traffic flows, I think might be helpful.
I guess I would say the best way to see what's there is when we're finished, it'll be better than any artist rendering could ever be. But the whole purpose of that redesign was to make that intersection safer, slow people down. As you know, it was not aligned, so you had to crook your neck to see. Now it will be at a 90-degree angle. The lanes have been narrowed a bit so that folks can't take fast turns into that roadway. So it will require the people to slow down, and it will force people to be more safe in their driving habits. They won't be able to take those turns at 40 miles an hour. They'll have to slow down to 15 or 20 or so.
Okay, so we have to pass it in order to see what's going to be in it, right?
Well, I can send you the current.
Build it to see what I'm being.
I can send you the current plans. But what's down there, what's there now, will be much more descriptive than even what the plans. I mean, the plans are just lines on a white piece of paper. They're not like 3D renderings or anything like that.
Okay. That was my question. Is there a rendering?
We don't have any 3D renderings. We have engineering plans that the DPW department used to install the work.
What do you mean, a 3D rendering?
Well, now with computers and the ability to generate images, if you put the right data in, you can create essentially something that looks almost like a photograph.
No, I think what Clark's talking about and what I'm talking about is just a visual, like from above.
The engineering drawings are available and have been available, and I'm happy to send them on to you.
That'd be great, and maybe the banner would put it in the paper, because it really is very confusing when you're there trying to figure out what's what.
Yeah.
I know, but not everybody goes online.
Okay.
No one, but running it in the paper.
Yeah, and I know that we've had Facebook postings as well. So.
And I'm not on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it isn't that it's not available. It's that perhaps you haven't.
No, I'm
seen
not saying it's not available. I'm saying make it more available.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it's available, but the more.
I don't know how much. If it's on the website and on Facebook, I can send it to you individually, but I don't know how much more available we can make it to the public.
I see Mr. Therian taking notes over there.
All right. So, okay. So, all right. Any other items from the manager's report? All right. So, next meeting is going to look a lot like what I said this meeting was, but I had the wrong date in my book. So, the Refugee Resettlement Organization, ECDC, and the Multicultural Center will be here to present next meeting, as will GBICS to talk about the Remote Access Medical Corps upcoming event, which is an event that allows anyone to come and get medical, dental, or vision care for free. So that's on our next agenda. I don't think we have anything else that has been assigned to it yet, so that's it. So, and I forgot that we do not need an executive session tonight. Completely forgot to say that at the beginning. Did you say yay out loud? So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
What about other business?
Oh, okay, we got too excited. Okay, other business. Never mind. Other business. Nancy.
I have 4 things.
Okay.
I've asked publicly for a year and a half for the Pennies for Park program to be placed on an agenda, and I've been denied for a year and a half, including since I've been on the board. I'm going to ask tonight when we can get this on an agenda.
So we, and I am pretty sure that I had this conversation with you. If I didn't, I apologize. We talked about it in agenda setting, and there was no agenda item. An agenda item has to have like some meat to it. So what happened, I think 2 meetings ago, in the manager's report, Stuart wrote a paragraph on Pennies for Park and what the select board charge was on that and what the voters voted on, and he discussed it.
Yep.
And so that was the discussion. There is nothing else to discuss.
Well, actually,
so that's
there is.
why it's not an agenda item.
Stu didn't mention why the voters voted on it. The public was told the first $250,000 the town taxpayers were going to pay was needed to replace the wooden playground at Willow Park. Well, it turned out we got ARPA money. We didn't need the pennies for park money at the rec center. And this board has never had a discussion since the voters approved it. I don't think the voters would have passed it if you said, well, we're going to use it for pathways or maybe trails or signs. People wanted that playground replaced. You had talked for a couple of years. It was old. It was falling apart. Everybody knew it was going to be removed. And you said, gee, how long will it be before we can afford a playground? I think you have to be fair to the public. We're charging our taxpayers, it's around an extra $100,000 a year in addition to what they're already paying.
Nancy, so before you get into territory that is not accurate, this is not a discussion item. The pennies for park, go back 2 meetings ago. Stu read this out loud, so it's not even, that was a time to have any, if you had any questions, it was on the manager's report, it was explained, and so please move on to number 2.
Okay. The Town Rec Center property on Gage Street, owned and paid for by the Town of Bennington taxpayers for 50 years. The reason you see the land, the rec center, and the pool is because the people of Bennington have owned and paid for it. You have paid for every bond, and I've asked for a year and a half for a discussion.
About what?
About what we need to pay extra that needs to be done. We're paying to fix the pool this year.
Nancy, that has been asked and answered for maybe 2 years now from if you ask a question and you get the answer, you have the answer. You may not like the answer, but it is the answer. And I think what you are confusing is that in the very early days of discussing ARPA, we were, actually it precedes ARPA. It's before we started on the Ben High project, we were talking about the various ways we could meet recreational needs by enhancing the rec center. Once the Ben High project came online, that shifted the conversation. It saved us, I don't even know how much money anymore. It saved us a lot of money because we didn't have to build a gym. We already had space there. We were renovating rather than doing this anew. And so you may not like the answer, but the question has been asked numerous times and it has been answered numerous times. So please, move on to number 3.
When there are extra things to do at that rec center, whether it's doing the pool, I don't know who's paying for the tennis courts. We shouldn't be billing the taxpayers because we have the pennies for park money. But that's all getting spent at the skateboard park. I want the public to understand they're getting charged for additional things that you already are paying for the pennies for park money that could be paying. Next item. So I do still want those on the agenda, both of them. Because again, you were very clear, you took the time to go out and find out how much it would cost to replace the wooden playground, $250,000. And you know the public didn't want to go without it. That's why they voted to do it.
I don't think anybody can ascribe voter intent, Nancy. It passed, it's law, it's the law now. And so that's what we're going to continue to do unless.
Well, I'm going to ask for it to be on the ballot in March. I want to see if the public really support it now that they know they don't have a say in how that money's getting spent.
Number 3.
Number 3. In April, our town was awarded a $200,000 grant for Phase 2 of the skateboard park. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's a downtown transportation fund grant, yes.
Okay. Well, I thought it was for the building that you've talked about that you want on top of the skateboard park. But now I think I'm realizing it's going to be spent in the green space?
It will be spent to build the skate park, and that was explicitly discussed in multiple times.
Okay. The skate park is concrete. Is that going to the concrete, or
If
is
I
it
may,
going to the green
this is not
space?
other business, this is old business. Can I ask the chair to redirect us, please?
Yeah, so
Why hasn't there been a public presentation about what the money's going to be spent on?
Nancy, there have been multiple public presentations.
For the $200,000?
Nancy? Yes.
We did a very detailed presentation, and that's when the board voted to proceed with the project.
So please, what is your number 4?
Number 4, well, it's a good thing. Hopefully you won't argue. The Bennington Fire Department is currently selling the raffle tickets for Battle Day weekend. Tickets are $10 each. Only 1,500 will be sold. First prize, $3,000. Second prize, $500. There are 5 $100 winners in addition to that. They're also selling tickets for the chicken barbecue that happens on Saturday night before the parade on Sunday. Those tickets are $15. I know everybody is having trouble with money, but I also hope the public understands that there are multiple towns and cities in Vermont. They pay for the people in their fire department. We have never paid in Bennington. If we were paying this year, different people I've talked to in the department gave me a rough estimate. It would be costing us an extra $3 million a year. That's on top of what we're already paying in the budget. So I hope people will be willing to step up, help them out so they can get the tickets sold. There have been years in the past where they sold out of the tickets ahead of time before the barbecue. So if you do want your tickets, you can buy them. There's usually somebody outside the firehouse Monday through Friday between 12 to 4 on River Street. And I also hope people understand there are volunteers that work for months just setting up Battle Day weekend. I don't think people understand the amount of time the volunteers, not just for fires and training, the amount of time they put to make Battle Day weekend happen. So I just hope people can maybe find a few bucks and help them out in the next couple of weeks to sell their tickets. That's it.
Thank you. That's great.
None for me. I think that's great. Yeah, get your chicken dinner tickets. That's great. Get them before they sell out, actually.
Nothing for me tonight, thanks.
Could you just, I don't know if this is a rehash or whatever, but I still would like to have our compatriots from the BCRC give us a presentation on everything from their Southern Vermont economic development strategy to even some of the regional housing surveys or strategies we conducted. I've gone online in their website, and I really can't find anything, but I really would hope we could have someone from that organization come and give not just the select board, but the public commentary on these studies. I think the last one I see here is from 2019.
No, it was actually on career, so Bill came for Career Month, so he came in April 2024. Okay. I think I sent you this in an email. Well, and then he also came 2-3 months before that. But I will also say, and maybe I didn't copy you on this, I did reach out to BCRC, and Bill Colvin and Jonathan Cooper are going to put something together. So that is in the works, and as soon as they can put that together, they will give us a presentation.
Okay. Well, again, the information that I've been able to find scrolling through their website, I can't find anything earlier or later than 2021. So if they have this information, if it was on their website, I wouldn't be asking.
Yes, it's in our minutes. They gave us presentations. They gave presentations here.
So Clark, I would also recommend if you want to talk to Bill Colvin, the executive director, he would be happy to meet with you.
And I did send that email, and I did connect them by email.
Well, on a personal basis, of course I'll speak to them, but my interest is more of a community general education and information. It doesn't help Joe down the street if I'm having a conversation with those folks. I'd like the public read in on what's going on.
I agree, Clark.
Understood.
So they're going to do that presentation as soon as they can get that together.
I'd like to make a request that the first person who gets chosen to do other business changes each week.
Okay, we can do that. I was just thinking that too.
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to put the same person on the spot every single week. So
this one being last every single meeting.
Okay.
So I have something really fun to say. There's a mural being painted on the Benmont side of the bike hub. Yeah. Does anyone know who the artist is?
Where is it?
Yes, we do.
It's amazing. Okay, we got to find out who that is.
So the artist's name is he goes by Quinto, Qwento, and it's Zach Kremer.
Thank you. you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it is.
I sit on the board of the Bike Hub, just so everybody, full transparency.
Great.
Yeah, so if you want to check him out, he's on, I think it's Instagram, and just, Google him.
I saw him on the job on my way here today. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
All right. All right. All right. So now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you all for staying, and congratulations. Thank you.